Today on Upfront, quelling the violence in Milwaukee. Just 2 weeks after a fatal police shooting touched off a night of unrest, I'll ask Common Council President Alderman Ashanti Hamilton what's next for the city. Them, Wisconsin Women for Trump. State Senate President Mary Lozick on how Donald Trump broadens his appeal to women voters. And a court ruling clears the way for expanded early voting when the state's largest cities plan to resume in-person absentee voting.
Covering the issues important to Wisconsin. This is Upfront with Mike Goucher.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Upfront. We begin today with a look at the recent violent unrest in Milwaukee and ask what's next for the state's largest city. 2 weekends ago, half a dozen businesses in the Sherman Park neighborhood burned after a black police officer shot and killed an armed black man during a foot chase. It's in a community where some are still raw over a white officer's fatal shooting of a mentally ill black man in a downtown park in 2014. Parts of Milwaukee are also plagued by violent crime and high levels of poverty. Last week, members of Milwaukee's Common Council announced a public safety action plan, and we're talking about where the city goes from here today with Council President Ashanti Hamilton. President Hamilton, it's good to have you on the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So a couple of weeks ago, after the unrest, you said we are a city in turmoil. How would you describe the atmosphere in this city today?
Well, I think there's a recognition of trying to move together, move forward together. I think there's a sense of shared responsibility of what's happening in the city of Milwaukee. I think we are moving in a direction of trying to be solution-driven in our conversations. And so what I'm hoping for now is that we can turn this dialogue into some action.
We'll talk about what action can be taken, but I do want to ask you, what concerns you most at this moment in time? There's been a delay from the time that this incident happened. The videos of the body camera videos of this incident still have not been released. What concerns you?
Well, I want us to operate in a way where people know that this is not business as usual. I want the community to feel like information is being shared. I want them to know that there's a sense of pushing for justice for however that may look like once this information comes out. And so as we go forward, I'm hoping that the time period is short with sharing the videotape with the public. I want them to be able to digest that and take the information that that law enforcement is sharing to heart, and that they feel like nothing is being held from the public.
Very briefly, is it still tense? Do you still feel it's a tense situation in this city?
I think it's been tense for a long time, and I think that's one of the problems with seeing this unrest at this time is that many people felt like this could have happened a number of incidents ago. What we want to be able to do is try to diffuse this from happening at all anymore. And so that people in communities that have felt this way for a long time, that there's a sense of doing things differently, but also that there is a true sense of addressing the issues that many have been complaining about for decades now.
And you mentioned that. It has been decades in the making here. Most people agree on that. So what do we do now? Because it's decades in the making. It's not going to change overnight, right, and yet people are impatient. What do you focus on?
Right. So first, let's try to make some visible changes, right? I think people have been extremely frustrated at different levels of government not working together to address these issues, taking that shared responsibility approach. We need to provide some opportunities for people who live in some of our most depressed neighborhoods. We need to provide a pathway to stable employment.
So is that job training? Does that look like job training?
It looks like job training. It also looks like competitive wages. And it also deals with education and making sure that there's quality education options for people who live in the city of Milwaukee. And so we have to make these neighborhoods attractive places to live. We have to eliminate the blight that exists in these neighborhoods. Some of these vacant and abandoned houses have been sitting for some years. And some of the old industrial plants have stood for years. And so what we have to be able to do is to provide opportunities of changing the landscape of the way these communities look, so that people who actually live in those communities can see a difference. They actually have an opportunity for employment opportunities that exist right there in their communities. And once we kind of get to a place where people actually see a pathway, then we're not dealing with the level of hopelessness that I think sparked this type of event.
The governor, you were at an event on Friday where the governor was, and he said we're going to give $4.5 million to help the city right now at this moment. Some of that money will be used to raise abandoned houses. Some of it will be used for job training. How much help do you need from the state to address these issues?
Well, we need a huge help from the state, right? And I think this is an example of the type of strategies that can work, right? So once we take a look at a concentrated area, you do an inventory of what's missing in that area, and then you come up with a game plan on how to change what that area looks like. And that is what the governor and the help from the state was able to give us a boost for. But another thing, Mike, that was extremely important at that event that the governor's leadership helped pull together. You saw at that event something that you typically don't see when you're trying to address the issues of poverty in the city of Milwaukee. You saw the executive director of the state. You saw the governor. You saw the county executive. You saw the mayor. All standing together.
The Common Council President.
And the Common Council President, right? Standing together, identifying a specific problem that the community said needed to be addressed, and a quick agreement on what a solution should look like and what it could be. What I would like to see is for us to take that very same strategy, apply it to other neighborhoods throughout the city, and have that same impact that we could have in the Sherman Park neighborhood.
What do you need from private business right now, who may have looked at some of those pictures and images and said, boy, I don't know if I want to invest in some parts of Milwaukee? What do you need from them?
Milwaukee is ripe for investment and is ready to give a tremendous return on that investment. Many in the business community have come to the table, and what they would like to see is a short-term strategy for dealing with the immediate concerns that exist in neighborhoods, a mid-term strategy to make sure that certain things are being carried out, and then a long-term strategy that people can be committed to and make that long-term commitment to having impacts in the city of Milwaukee. And we're trying to give them that platform because it's their investment, quite honestly. It's the private sector investment into the city of Milwaukee that makes the difference.
President Ashanti Hamilton, he is an alderman from the north side of Milwaukee. We appreciate you being with us today.
Thank you, Mike. I really appreciate the conversation.
Thank you very much. Later on up front, Milwaukee and Madison will resume expanded early voting hours. We'll talk about the impact of the court ruling that rejected restrictions on early voting. But first, Wisconsin Women for Trump. I'll ask a state senator leading the effort if Trump can really win here. That's when Up Front continues.
Up Front with Mike Goucher, brought to you by the American Transmission Company and the Wisconsin Corn Growers Association.